It's day 6 of the 31-day Safer Pilot Challenge, and a little break from the airplane. We're talking today about a runway overrun on landing.
Charging, power back, 10 degrees flat, perfect. Landing still starts in perfect pattern.
What is happening, MzeroA Nation? Jason Shepard here. Welcome into day 6, the 31-day Safer Pilot Challenge. Check in down below. Are you 6 for 6? You've been enjoying some of the flying footage and everything else. Taking a break to head to the studio today. We'll be back in the airplane again tomorrow. But check in down below. And the reason I broke up these, engine failure on takeoff videos, as you'll see here, is I want to take a moment to talk about a runway overrun, not on takeoff, but on landing. Let's read from the NTSB report. On December 8th, 2005, Southwest 1248, a Boeing 737, overran the runway during landing at Chicago-Midway Airport. Tragically, this accident claimed the life of a young child in a car and injured several others on board and on the ground. The day actually began with Southwest 1248 scheduled to fly from Baltimore to Chicago-Midway with a continuation to Salt Lake and then on to Las Vegas. The weather forecast for Chicago, well, it indicated potential snow showers, but nothing was immediately alarming to the crew or to the airline, so the flight progressed towards Chicago. Now, like all weather works sometimes, how Mother Nature works is the weather conditions at Midway, well, they began to start to deteriorate and go downhill. The snow showers began to intensify, reducing visibility and affecting runway conditions. At approximately 7:15 p.m. now, this is Central Standard Time, the pilot initiated a landing while nearly 8 inches of snow covered the surrounding area. Now, despite this, the airport authorities confirmed that the runway had been cleared of snow prior to the aircraft's approach. Yet the prevailing weather conditions at the time, listen to this, included winds from 090 at 11 knots. Now, under normal circumstances, a wind from 090, that would facilitate a land on runway 13 center. However, the runway visual range, the RVR, at that time was reported to just be 4,500 feet. What does that mean? RVR is how far could I see down that runway? They can only see 4,500 feet in front of them, which is below the minimum requirements for an ILS approach. So the only other available option, in aviation, when you start running out of options, what's left may not be always the best. Well, they had another runway option. It had lower minimums for landing, but it was the exact reciprocal end, 3-1 center. Now we're talking landing with a tailwind in weather, but the crew opted for this runway. This resulted in obviously an increased ground speed for the aircraft due to the tailwind. The NTSB actually later calculated the tailwind factor to be 8 knots, which doesn't sound like a lot, but now listen to this. That 8-knot tailwind exceeded Southwest's maximum. Like Southwest said, hey, the maximum you're allowed to have of a tailwind is 5 knots. They landed with 8 knots. So it exceeded, not regulatory, but it exceeded Southwest's internal rules and regulations. The NTSB also concluded that given the weight, the poor braking conditions because of the snow, and the tailwind, Southwest 1248, even with all of that, needed 5,300 feet of runway to stop. Well, 3-1 center at that time was 6,522 feet, leaving just over 1,000 feet of margin. So even with all that against them, they still had margin. So why did they run off the end of the runway? Well, the flying pilot, in this case the captain, stated that he could not get the reverse thrust levers out of the stowed position. The first officer stepped in after several seconds, noticed the thrust reversers were not deployed, and activated the reversers without a problem. And flight data from the recorder actually shows that the thrust reversers were not deployed until 18 seconds after touchdown. At that point, there's only about 1,000 feet of usable runway remaining, their margin, as the NTSB calculated. So what would you say were the 3 main factors contributing to the accident? Well, the NTSB breaks it down this way. The first is an inadequate assessment of the runway conditions by the crew. 2 is the absence of the effective reverse thrust during landing. And 3 is one we can all relate to, the pilot's decision to land despite the challenging weather conditions. So what can we do as pilots, right? How can we learn from this tragedy, right? And everyone on Southwest survived, but they ended up striking a car because they went into a road and killed a small child. Like, first and foremost, I look at this as the importance of thorough pre-flight planning and an assessment of runway conditions. It can't be overstated. We as pilots must remain vigilant about our changing weather conditions and be prepared to adjust our approach accordingly or go somewhere totally different. What would be wrong with going to Chicago O'Hare instead of Midway, right? Moreover, this accident, though, it underscores the need for just a rigorous adherence, there's no way to put it, to our standard operating procedures, like exceeding the tailwind component for Southwest. In particular, but during these weather conditions, right? We as pilots, we must recognize the limitations of our aircraft and the environment that we operate in. So in memory of the lives that have been impacted by this accident, can we all just agree, as you check in that you're 6 for 6 down below, can we recommit ourselves to the absolute, just the highest standard of safety and professionalism? I know we're just flying 172s, but we can be professional about that. Right? We can learn from the past to ensure a safer future for all of us. So my apologies for a somber tone for day 6. I promise will be much more exciting tomorrow, but it really is a moment to reflect. How can we continue to go above and beyond? How can we be good pilots who are truly always learning? I can't wait to read your comments down below this video. Have a blessed, abundant, outstanding rest of your day. And most importantly, remember, a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, everybody. See ya.